Have you ever wondered how many incredible aircraft were built, but never saw a single day of combat? Planes that could fly faster, higher, and smarter than anything else in the sky, it ended up forgotten in hangars or destroyed before proving themselves. It's almost hard to believe, right? Billions of dollars spent, years of research. The best minds working together to build machines that never got their chance to roar across a battlefield. Today, we're diving deep into that forgotten world, the top 5 aircraft that never made it to war. These aren't just planes. They're dreams made of steel and fire. Some were too advanced. Some were too expensive. And some simply appeared at the wrong time in history. But each one tells a story of ambition, failure, and what might have been. Before we jump in, here's something special for you. Stick around till the end of this video, because we've got a bonus aircraft that almost nobody knows about. It's a secret project that could have changed the future of air combat forever. Trust me, you won't want to miss that. Now think about this. Every great aircraft you know, the F-22 Raptor, the SR-71 Blackbird, the Spitfire, earned its fame in battle or through missions that changed history. But what about the ones that didn't get that chance? What happens to a fighter jet when wars end, budgets cut, or politics take over? Sometimes the greatest machines don't fall to enemy fire, they fall to paperwork. In this video, we'll uncover the stories of 5 aircraft that were built to dominate the skies, but never heard the call of war. Each one had the power to change how wars were fought, but fate had other plans. Some were killed by politics, others by bad timing, and a few were simply too far ahead of their time. So buckle up, because we're about to travel through history, from secret Cold War hangars to wind tunnels where the future of flight was tested, but never fully unleashed. By the end, you'll see that not every hero of the sky needs to drop bombs or win dogfights to make history. Some simply needed to exist. Let's begin our countdown with number 5, a stealth fighter so advanced, it could have redefined modern air combat before the world even knew what stealth meant. Imagine a jet so stealthy it could slip through radar like a shadow, so fast it could outrun anything in the sky. And so advanced it made even the world's best fighter pilots stare in awe. That jet was the Northrop YF-23. It's better known as the Black Widow too, the fighter that could ruled the skies but never made it to war. Back in the late 1980s, the United States Air Force had one goal: build the next generation of stealth fighters. They wanted something invisible to radar, faster than sound, and deadly in combat. 2 giants stepped into the ring, Lockheed Martin and Northrop. Lockheed brought the YF-22, and Northrop brought this dark, sleek beast, the YF-23. The Black Widow 2 didn't just look futuristic, it was futuristic. It had a smooth, diamond-shaped body designed to scatter radar waves. Its engines were buried deep inside the fuselage to hide heat from enemy sensors. Even its exhausts were shaped flat, so heat would spread out instead of glowing bright for infrared detectors. When you looked at it, you could tell this wasn't just another plane. It was something out of science fiction. And it wasn't just stealthy. The YF-23 was fast. With 2 powerful engines, it could cruise at supersonic speeds without using afterburners. Something most jets at the time could only dream of. It could fly high, strike fast, and vanish before the enemy even knew what happened. Pilots who tested it said it felt like flying the future. But here's the twist. Even though the YF-23 was better in many ways, it still lost. In 1991, after years of testing, the U.S. Air Force chose the YF-22 instead, which became the F-22 Raptor. Why? Not because the YF-23 was bad, far from it. It was simply a matter of politics, cost, and confidence. The Air Force believed the YF-22 was easier to maintain, had better agility, and was built by a company with more production experience. Still, many experts say the YF-23 was the more advanced jet. It was quieter, faster, and had better stealth features. Some even believe that if it had been chosen, air combat today might look very different. After losing the competition, the 2 YF-23 prototypes were stored away, one painted black, one gray. They never went to war. They never flew in secret missions. They just sat in museums, silent reminders of what could have been. But the Black Widow story didn't end there. Many of its design ideas, the stealth shaping, the smooth surfaces, and the focus on heat management, influenced future aircraft. You can even see echoes of the YF-23 in modern drones and stealth bombers today. In the end, the YF-23 wasn't defeated in battle. It was defeated by decisions made in offices, not skies. It was a masterpiece that arrived too early, a ghost of a future that never came. Next, we travel north to Canada, where one of the most advanced jets ever built was destroyed not by war, but by politics. Stay tuned, because the story of the Avro Arrow is one of the most heartbreaking in aviation history. Picture this. It's the 1950s. The Cold War is heating up. God. And Canada, country not exactly known for massive military projects, decides to take on the impossible. They want to build the fastest, most advanced jet interceptor in the world. The result? The Avro Arrow. Also known as the CF-105, a plane so far ahead of its time, it scared even its allies. The Avro Arrow was a dream built in white metal. Sleek, sharp, and powerful. It could fly at speeds over Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. It soared higher than 50,000 feet and could carry deadly missiles that would made any enemy think twice before crossing into North American airspace. For the late 1950s, this was science fiction turned reality. The Arrow wasn't just fast, it was beautiful. It was built by Avro Canada, a company filled with brilliant engineers who believed Canada could compete with any superpower. The project gave hope to thousands of workers, and for a short time, Canada stood at the front line of aviation innovation. Even American and British engineers were impressed. But then, everything fell apart. Politics, fear, and money collided in the worst way possible. The Canadian government began to question the cost. The project was eating millions, and some leaders argued that new missile defense systems were the future, not manned aircraft. On February 20th, 1959, Prime Minister John Diefenbacher announced that the entire Avro Arrow program would be cancelled. Just like that, everything stopped. It wasn't just cancelled, it was erased. The government ordered every prototype, blueprint, and part of the Avro Arrow to be destroyed. Engineers stood in silence as the jets they built were cut to pieces with blowtorches. Some cried. Some just walked away. It was one of the darkest days in Canadian aviation history. To this day, no one knows exactly why it was cancelled so brutally. Some say it was pressure from the United States to focus on joint defense systems. Others think it was about budget cuts or politics. But whatever the reason, Canada lost something incredible that day more than just a plane. They lost their place in the sky. The Avro Arrow could have changed everything. If it had entered service, it might have set the standard for high-speed interceptors for decades. Instead, it became a legend, a ghost whispered about by pilots and engineers who still wonder what if. Pieces of the original aircraft have been found in lakes and scrapyards, and a few models are preserved in museums. Next, we all head back to the United States for one of the most jaw-dropping aircraft ever built, a bomber so fast, no missile on Earth could touch it. The story of the XB-70 Valkyrie proves that even the most powerful machines can meet tragic ends. A bomber flying higher than 70,000 feet, so fast it could outrun any missile on Earth. That was the XB-70 Valkyrie, one of the most incredible aircraft ever created by the United States. It wasn't just a bomber. It was a technological marvel, a flying symbol of the Cold War's race for supremacy in the skies. Built by North American Aviation in the late 1950s, the XB-70 was designed to do one thing: deliver nuclear weapons deep into enemy territory and escape before anyone could stop it. To survive, it needed speed. Not just a little speed. We're talking about Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. It's over 2,000 miles per hour. At that speed, the air around the aircraft heated up like fire. The Valkyrie wasn't only fast, it was massive. It stretched almost 200 feet long, with 6 roaring engines and wings that could fold downward during flight to improve stability at high speeds. It was made mostly of titanium and stainless steel to handle the heat from traveling that fast. When it flew, it didn't just move, it thundered through the sky. In 1964, when the first XB-70 took off, it stunned everyone who saw it. Test pilots described it as smooth and powerful, like controlling a rocket with wings. It could reach the edge of space and cross continents in minutes. For a moment, it seemed like the future of air warfare had arrived, but just as quickly, the dream began to crumble. By the early 1960s, new radar-guided surface-to-air missiles made high-altitude bombers vulnerable. The U.S. military began shifting focus from bombers to intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, which could deliver nuclear weapons faster and cheaper. The Valkyrie, once seen as unstoppable, was suddenly seen as unnecessary. Then came tragedy. On June 8, 1966, during a test flight, one of the two XB-70 prototypes collided midair with a smaller chase plane during a photo shoot. The XB-70 spun out of control and crashed in the desert, killing 2 pilots. The accident shocked the aviation world and marked the end of the Valkyrie's flight program. The remaining XB-70 never went to war. Instead, it was used for research until it was retired in 1969. Today, only one survives, resting quietly in the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, a giant piece of what could have been. But the Valkyrie wasn't a failure. Far from it. Its technology helped engineers design future aircraft like the SR-71 Blackbird and even the Space Shuttle. It proved what humans could build when limits were pushed to the edge. The XB-70 Valkyrie was a legend that burned bright and vanished too soon, a reminder that sometimes innovation flies faster than the world can handle. Next, we'll cross the Atlantic to the United Kingdom, where another brilliant project met the same cruel fate. The TSR-2, to Britain's pride, was a jet that could have changed the course of modern warfare if only it had survived the politics that destroyed it. In the early 1960s, Britain was determined to prove it could still lead the world in aviation. The Royal Air Force needed a jet that could do it all: fly low, fly fast, and strike deep behind enemy lines. The result was the TSR-2, a plane so advanced it made other aircraft of its time look outdated overnight. The TSR-2 wasn't just another military project. It was Britain's bold step into the futuristic. White machine built to outrun radar and deliver precise strikes before anyone even knew it was there. TSR stood for tactical strike and reconnaissance, but what it really meant was power and perfection. This aircraft could fly at Mach 2.35, over twice the speed of sound, and soar above 50,000 feet. It could also drop down to treetop level, hugging the Earth to avoid radar detection. Its navigation and bombing systems were years ahead of anything else in the world. Pilots who flew it said it felt like a rocket disguised as a jet. But as with many great ideas, the TSR-2's biggest enemy wasn't another country, it was politics. The project's costs skyrocketed, delays piled up, and the British government started losing faith. Some politicians argued that it was too expensive. Others believed Britain should rely on American aircraft instead. Still, when the TSR-2 finally took its first flight in 1964, it performed beautifully. It was smooth, fast, and astonishingly advanced. Engineers were thrilled. Pilots called it a dream to fly. Britain had built one of the finest strike aircraft in the world. And then, just like that, it was over. Only a year later, the government canceled the entire program. They claimed it was too costly and too complex, and that the UK would instead purchase cheaper American planes, the F-111. But that deal eventually fell apart too. So in the end, Britain got nothing. The most painful part. Every prototype and nearly every part of the TSR-2 was ordered to be destroyed. Just like with Canada's Avro Arrow, engineers watched in silence as their creation was torn apart. It was a devastating blow to British aviation. Many of the nation's best engineers left for the U.S. aerospace industry, taking their brilliance with them. The TSR-2 could have been one of the greatest strike jets ever built. It had the speed of a fighter, the range of a bomber, and the technology of the future. Instead, it became a symbol of wasted potential, a reminder of how politics can crush even the brightest dreams today. A single surviving TSR-2 sits in a museum, silent and proud. Visitors stare at it in awe, imagining what might have been if it had reached the skies in full service. But our journey isn't over yet, because next we move east. Two Russian engineers built a fighter so strange, so futuristic, that it looked like something from another planet. Its wings bent forward, defying physics itself. And though it never went to war, it remains one of the most fascinating jets ever built. Meet the Sukhoi Su-47 Berkut. Now we head to Russia, where the skies have always been a testing ground for bold ideas. During the 1990s, as the Soviet Union faded and a new Russia struggled to rise, A team of engineers at Sukhoi began working on something extraordinary, a jet that looked like it came from another world. Its wings bent forward instead of backward. Its design seemed to laugh at physics. This was the Su-47 Berkut, which means golden eagle. At first glance, the Berkut didn't even look real. Most fighter jets have wings swept back to cut through the air, but the Su-47 flipped that design completely. Its wings curved forward, giving it unmatched agility and control at high speeds and sharp turns. It could twist, climb, and roll with precision no other aircraft could match. It was built to dominate the sky as a fighter meant to dance, not just fight. The idea was bold, but it wasn't random. Forward-swept wings gave the Berkut incredible lift and stability during tight maneuvers. It could fly slower without losing control, giving it a huge advantage in dogfights. But dreams come at a price. Su-47 was expensive, and Russia in the 1990s was struggling financially. After the fall of the Soviet Union, defense budgets were slashed. The country could barely fund existing aircraft programs, let alone build a fleet of experimental stealth fighters. So instead of becoming a production jet, Su-47 became a test platform, a flying laboratory to study advanced aerodynamics and new technologies. Only one prototype ever truly flew. And yet when it took to the skies, it captured the imagination of the entire aviation world. The black, futuristic jet with its forward wings looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. It could perform breathtaking maneuvers, flips, rolls, and tight turns that other aircraft could only dream of. For a moment, it felt like Russia had built a machine that defied gravity itself. Still, the Berkut never entered service. The project was simply too costly. And Russia's priorities shifted to more practical designs like the Su-35 and later the Su-57 Felon, which borrowed much of the Su-47's research. In that sense, the Berkut didn't die in vain. It passed its DNA to the next generation. Today, the Su-47 sits quietly in storage, a rare glimpse of what might have been. Its smooth black frame, forward-swept wings, and bold design remind us that innovation often flies too close to the edge of what's possible. The Berkut never fought a war, but it still left its mark, not as a weapon, but as a vision of the future. But before we end our journey, there's one more surprise waiting, a bonus aircraft that's rarely talked about, one that existed only in secret plans and hidden photos. It could have changed air combat forever if it had ever taken flight. Stay tuned, you're about to meet one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Long before NASA sent astronauts into space, there was another project that aimed to do the impossible, build a reusable spaceplane that could fly into orbit, glide back to Earth, and land like a jet. It wasn't a dream from the 1980s or 2000s, it was from the 1950s, and it was called the Boeing X-20 Dyna-Soar. Few people today even know its name. But if it had flown, the Dyna-Soar could have changed both space travel and aerial warfare forever. The X-20 looked like a small, sleek spacecraft, about 35 feet long, with sharp wings and a pointed nose. It was designed to be launched on top of a rocket, reach the edge of space, and glide back down at hypersonic speeds, landing on a runway like a plane. It was decades ahead of its time, a mix between a fighter jet and a space shuttle. The idea behind it was revolutionary. The U.S. Air Force wanted a spaceplane that could spy on enemies, deliver nuclear weapons from orbit, or even sabotage satellites. In a time when the Cold War was filled with paranoia and competition, the Dyna-Soar promised total dominance of the skies and beyond. But as always, the higher the dream, the harder the fall. By 1963, the X-20 project had already cost hundreds of millions of dollars, a fortune at the time. Engineers were still struggling to solve problems with re-entry heat, materials, and guidance systems. Then, when President Kennedy took office, he shifted America's focus to the Apollo program, landing humans on the moon. The Dyna-Soar was quietly canceled. No X-20 ever reached space. The prototype that was almost ready for launch was scrapped before its engines ever fired. Just like the others in our list, the Dyna-Soar became another dream sealed away in hangars and history books. But its story doesn't end there. Many of its design ideas, The heat-resistant tiles, the gliding re-entry, and the cockpit layout later helped build the space shuttle. In a way, the Dyna-Soar didn't die. It just evolved. Spirit lived on in every spacecraft that carried humans safely back to Earth. When you look back at all these aircraft, the YF-23, the Avro Arrow, the XB-70, the TSR-22, the Su-47, and the Dyna-Soar, a pattern emerges.
Oh.
None of them failed because they didn't work. They failed because the world wasn't ready for them. Each one was a glimpse into the future, a reminder that progress doesn't always win against politics, fear, or timing. These machines never fought a war. They fought something much tougher: the limits of imagination, money, and human patience. So the next time you see a jet streak across the sky, remember there are ghosts up there too. Aircraft that never got their moment in battle, but still shaped the future of flight. Because in the end, history isn't written only by the planes that fought, but also by the ones that never did. And who knows? Maybe somewhere in a quiet hangar, another secret aircraft waits, built for a war that will never come, and for a sky that still belongs to dreamers.